Most people won't put up with this kind of stuff where it hinders other people's success and progress and things like that. This one is a big one for sure. I agree.
It boils my blood when I hear or witness somebody else takes credit for someone else's work. It doesn't matter if you're a leader or a boss. Credit should always be given where credit is due.
Today, we're looking at the 5 red flags of a truly toxic boss. And this is brought to us by Harvard Business Review. So, the very first one is they lack self awareness. So, one of the toxic pieces of a boss is that they lack self awareness.
Okay. I will have to agree. Now, here's the thing. I don't know. I think red flags or toxic is going to be very specific to the person's own definition of what those mean. But I would say if a leader, let's say a leader or boss lacks self-awareness, that is very bad leadership just because that means you can't recognize if you are not doing something correct or if you are giving the wrong direction to your team or if you are, you know, I guess, overpowered by your own ego to be able
Hmm.
to accept something better, right?
Yeah. I should add some of the context here is toxic bosses lack the ability to recognize and control their emotions. They tend to think that they're right about everything. That says
Yeah.
it all. That says it all. I think, as a leader, you have to have confidence in your decisions, but you also have to have the wisdom to know that you may be wrong and you need to pull back at times. So if you have a boss that they just kind of go, 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 and they just don't care about feedback and something's clearly wrong, but they just keep going forward because it was their decision, that can get rough after a while.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's a good one. They lack self awareness is a very good one. Number two, they have here is they lack empathy. Toxic bosses don't invest time or energy in building relationships to understand how their communication approach may impact others.
Mm.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with this. Every single person receives information differently and understands information differently. So being able to understand how each of your employees prefer to be communicated to and the style you communicate, what your leadership style that is most effective with each individual is going to help you in the long run. But being able to have empathy is the core piece of building relationship with your team. If your team can't relate and can't trust you and can't feel safe with you, then that typically causes challenges in performances. So I 100% would agree with that. You need to be able to have that emotional tie-in.
Yeah. And if they don't know how their approach is impacting the team, then how are they even leading? That's kind of my question at that point, right? Like they're not really leaders at that point. They're just kind of telling people to do things and, you know, if it works or if it doesn't, it's their fault. I mean, it could be a real bad situation. So lacking empathy is a prerequisite, I would say, about for leading for sure. Very good. The next one is they're only motivated by self-interest. Toxic bosses make everything about themselves and seek to take credit for others' work.
Oh my goodness. I could not have
Oof.
agreed with something bigger. This is probably one of my biggest pet peeves. It boils my blood when I hear or witness somebody else takes credit for someone else's work. It doesn't matter if you're a leader or a boss. It's even like from a, equal playing field
Hmm.
because credit should always be given where credit is due. It just
Always.
always should be that way. So I 100% agree. If you're only thinking about yourself versus the team or the betterment of the company and team, you're not going to get anywhere when it comes down to being a leader or when it comes down to leading a successful company. It just will not go far.
Yeah, these are all home runs. I mean, this is like very, very. I mean, having these situations coming to you, that's pretty rough, and it's unlikely that company's going to succeed or that leader's going to succeed long at all. Most people won't put up with this kind of stuff. This one, some of these things, I think people will kind of like to some extent deal with, but when it comes down to something like this, where it hinders other people's success and progress and things like that, this one is a big one for sure. I agree. Great. The next one is they demonstrate inconsistent behavior. Toxic bosses are unpredictable, and employees may find it difficult to decipher what's expected of them from one day to the next.
Oh, this is
Another
again.
home run.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if this is a home run for me. I think this
Mm,
is more of a situational. behavior, I guess. I don't know if just because a boss is inconsistent, I don't know if that makes them toxic. I feel like, say, if you're let's just take example, if you're in a small startup, you kind of have to have constant moving targets. Maybe you kind of have to be able to pivot and change your strategy, especially in the beginning while you figure things out. Is that considered inconsistent? Is that considered toxic? I don't know.
I don't
I
think
feel
so.
like, yeah, I feel like this one I'm torn about because maybe they're inconsistent because the situation or the role they're in requires that of them.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I have experienced what I think this is alluding to early on in my career, where the best way I could describe this particular person had to deal with was two-face. Two-face is the best way I could describe it, where one day something happens and they react to it very positive, like, "Hey, don't worry about it. We can take care of it. It happens, whatever." And then the very next thing happens again the same way, and this person blows up. And then it happens again some other way, and this person is very happy and excited. So it that kind of like very uh unpredictable and abrupt reaction to things that may be very minute to deal with become the world's end all of a sudden, and then the next day they're no big deal again, and then the next day they're all again the world's end. That's what I relate to with this. And if this is what it's referring to, then I completely agree. You want consistency in behavior of knowing that, a small mistake is going to be handled accordingly, and then a larger mistake will be handled accordingly, always with respect. But that's where I think this is going. And I've seen that, I've
yeah,
experienced it earlier in my career. And that's where I can say, yeah, definitely. If that's the case, this is a home run for me. This is like a very
okay.
toxic situation. And, you know, again,
I
it's
think
really
this
hard to deal with that.
needed to be elaborated more. It just says they demonstrate inconsistent behavior. It didn't say they were
Hmm.
demonstrating inconsistent behavior. I mean, emotional behavior, which is what you're talking about. Like, there's
Yeah, I
no.
see them the same, but fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, the piece I do agree with here is, unclear in the communication with displaying favoritism or even discrimination. Yeah, that I obviously
Yeah.
agree with. You shouldn't do that. But I don't see how that is a tagline with demonstrating inconsistent behavior. I think I'm understanding that a little differently. I'm
Hmm.
understanding
Hmm.
that as from a task perspective
Hmm.
versus a emotional perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely can see this in multiple different like dimensions.
Yeah. But regardless, the piece I would will agree with is you should treat everybody fairly. You should treat everybody equal, and you should just, you know, be respectful no matter what.
Yes, yes, and you pointed it out. Favoritism, when a leader steps into favoritism, that is the quick fire way for you to get fired or be hated as a leader. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
as bad as it gets. Very good. The last one here is they take advantage of power dynamics. Toxic bosses weaponize their power, expecting employees to carry out their instructions obediently and without questioning their authority or the value of the work being undertaken.
I agree.
All
This
right.
this is home run for me.
Okay.
You're in a role as a leader, as a boss to help others. That should be the mentality. Their success is your success, and being able to open up the room for safe and comfortable opportunities where your employees can have a voice is crucial. You actually be able to have better results or outcome when it comes down to performance wise with decision making when you allow that. But to be able to come in and just say, hey, I'm the top, I have this role, I have this title, you follow and do as I say, I don't agree with as well. That's crazy. Yeah. You're going to lose a lot of the employees and good ones, A players, whatever you want to call them, if you act this way.
Yes. My thought on this is we've talked about in other videos about the idea of being an autocratic leader, where there are situations where you don't need feedback from the employees in that situation. And you do need them to carry out the instructions at a very fast pace because of a crisis situation. But let's assume this is not talking about those like very small situations that exist. And this is talking about broadly, you are taking advantage of power dynamics, generally speaking. Yeah, I agree. 100%. This is the fastest way to lose your A players, but you'll lose pretty much all your employees. The only reason why you might not lose employees is because that employee maybe is unable to do that job because of family reasons, whatever, financial, whatever. That's probably one of the only reasons people will stick around for these kind of things. But I just want to preface like There could be situations where somebody needs immediate obedience and speed to carry out something, but those are very finite. They're very specific and they're very short lived situations. It's like, hey, we're in crisis moment, emergency situation. Hey, I need this to get done. That's one thing. But generally speaking, yeah, this is just like all the other ones. This is something that people are going to leave. And hopefully, the person that hired this person is going to find this out fast and correct this behavior immediately, or this is not the right person for the job, or not the right person to be a leader, period. All right, very good. And those are the 5 red flags of a truly toxic boss. Overall, Kiana, what did you think?
Yeah, I think they pretty much hit the nail on the head on the list. I mean, there's plenty of others. Don't, think this is the only 5 things to look out for, right? But I agree. They had a pretty good list here. And then maybe one tip of advice is if you're running into situations like this, don't ever be afraid to stand up for yourself. You do have opportunities to either walk away from the opportunity because again, you don't want to work for a toxic boss or confront them or confront the leaders of leaders as
Mhm.
well. So don't ever think that you're stuck or you're muted in a situation like that. However, the way you perform and carry that out will be a judgment of yourself as well. So always do it with respect. Always do it with evidence. Always do it with goal in mind that that's going to be your legacy you're leaving behind too. So
Yeah, well said. If that's your boss and you're dealing with this, you need to go somewhere. So if you need to go to HR is the ideal place to go. If you can't, if there is no HR for some reason, or you can't go HR, you have to go a step above that boss to speak to the next boss. There's just no way around it. You can't just stick around and say, what's that phrase? It's better the devil you know than the one you don't. I think is a phrase that I've heard that I hate. I hate that phrase because if something is amiss, something is an issue, you need to report it. You need to figure it out. You should never go to work feeling completely drained and feeling like, it's just a toxic environment. That's not meant to be. So I completely agree with you, Ken. All right. Very good. Thank you all very much. Please like and subscribe. And please comment and let us know what you thought about these red flags. If there's any other red flags you thought that should be on the list that they are not. And we'll see you on the next one.
fine.
Bye.